Ian and Leona here. Another day in America. So I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my thing of exploring and I guess discovering new things, discovering what life should be and not what you expect it to be. I labeled this particular podcast as The Upside Down, mostly because I had another PTSD trigger. But I'm an adult, and even though I'm a veteran and I suffer and I cry and I take rape showers because I've been sexually abused by the American government, I'm still me. I'm still me inside. So I have to process it. So I do my art therapy because it doesn't make sense to scream at people unless you need to. Like, why should I stress myself out more than I'm already stressed out? I was so stressed out with this latest thing because once again I had a woman charge at me while I was trying to move about. But it was a situation where I couldn't say anything because yeah, I am a major target because these people don't like the fact that I say very, very often that I support the arts, I support cinema. I just don't want to be a part of it. And I encourage people to just get out of it. Why? Because there's a time to sit down and learn, and then there's a time to take what you've learned and apply it to the world. Television and film have spoon fed you all these life lessons that you should have learned by just living your life. But you were stuck, just like everyone else was stuck, with I'll let fictional characters enjoy the life and the luxury that I've always wanted. People watch things like Game of Thrones and be like, yeah, I want a sword fight. It's like, no, you don't. Not really. You try and sword fight and someone just chops you in half. It'd be like, yeah, it's a very short sword fight. By the way, good morning. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the revolution. I'm talking about the upside down. I'm talking about this idea that being rich is lovely. It's nice to have money, but you know what's even nicer? To not need it. To not need money. I was very rude to my PTSD trigger because I have PTSD and I could see that I was being set up. I could see the whole situation of I've got a ton of luggage. I can't just flip about. I've got my service animals. So it's not exactly like I can just run off in any direction. So I'm trying to, check in and everything. And I have PTSD and I don't know what possessed. I'm going to call her Grandma Shirley Temple. Grandma Shirley Temple shows up in the upside down, let's say. It shows up in the upside down and turns to me, turns to me of all people. It's like, I don't know, is this safe? And I'm like, do I fucking work here? Do I fucking know you? Here's a thought. Here's a thought. If you feel unsafe, then you need to do something about that. That's on you. If your version of I feel unsafe is, well, I find a tower and I lock myself in it and I barricade it with all the people who want to barricade it, or or you say to yourself, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the side with the people who are sharpening sticks and stakes and all that? Or do you want to be on the side of the people in the tower? Because either way, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. Because there is so much going on in the world that I just don't have time for your California bullshit, even if I'm no longer in California. In India, there's a brand new disease that everybody's worried about, except America, because America had this funny little story of ICE agencies gone wild. And that takes up a lot of airtime. It takes up a lot of brain space because Americans don't really seek out outbreaks. I'm an epidemiologist, so it's kind of what I do. I'm not paid to do so, but it's my slot in life that if things go wrong, I'm one of the people who has to fold protein, just like I did for COVID. So, yeah, I have to focus on that. And I want to talk about, oh, my PTSD, but I don't have time for your fucking bullshit. I don't have time for your bullshit. Your California bullshit that's not even in California, okay? If I wanted to, I would be great. You can give me an Oscar, you can give me an Emmy, you can give me a Tony. Great. Who's gonna fucking see that when everyone's infected with the disease that's in India because no one said, somebody has to go to town hall and talk about protocols, talk about closing the borders, talking about adding disinfection schedules to every warehouse, every dock, every public building. Who's going to do that? I wonder. I wonder who's going to do that because your government doesn't do that. You don't do that because you're just so caught up in the drama of the ICE agency's gone wild. And I have to call it that because we're talking about someone who lost a life, but people in the West Coast, at the very least, are like, yeah, that's horrible. So you want to do a fitness class? I mean, we're here to protest, like ICE is so bad, so bad. 80s music, all right. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Until you say you drafted grandmas and grandpas into your civil war with the United States. The United States is a civil war right now. This is a war zone. I moved to a war zone. I didn't really think that through. I was supposed to move away from the war zone, but I just moved closer to it because I said to myself, whatever's going on in America, you can't really run away from it. You have to face it head on. You have to talk about it. You have to talk about things that bother you. You have to talk about things that you need to focus on. America is shaking its race baiting tits in your face with all of this drama so that you don't have the time to say, hey, aren't people in India getting sick right now? Do you want that spread to your home? Do you want that spread to your family? I didn't think so. So, who is going to have the time to talk to City Hall and say, I need you to jump on this? I need you to do this. This isn't a request, it's an order. People take the American government for granted and then they get upset. They get so butthurt about, oh, I'm not really being heard, man. I'm not really being heard. It's, are you sure? Are you sure that nobody hears you? Are you sure? Because if you spoke up more often, if you spoke up in a way that people understand, you'll always be heard. The idea of boycotts, the idea of pulling yourself out of the system and maybe pulling others out too is a good thing. You don't want to look at the bum on your street and say, dude, I need to bring you into my life. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to because you always say, I'm so much better than that. I am so much better than. Good for you. Good for you that you think that way. But I have to think in the way of reality. And the way of reality is we need to go to City Hall and talk about what are we good at? This civil war that is happening on the West Coast between the West Coast and the federal government is a very, very messy affair because most likely veterans, they're not into it. You know who is? Boomers, Gen Z, millennials, people who have no business on a front line, no training, nothing. You're gonna let a grandma or a grandpa get tear gassed in your war because you wouldn't open up your mouth and talk about what you want like an adult. Hold that fucking picket sign. Hold that fucking picket sign. Guess what? You're just tear gassing the elderly. You're tear gassing kids. Were they unruly? Probably. Do you think you could still talk to them? Yeah, I think you could. We have to focus on other issues as well. We can't monopolize the entire media, our entire lives with this when we have other things that are world shattering. People in CERN were saying, there's a shift in reality. You have to ask yourself, what do you really know of reality? Because in reality, there are wars, there are battles, lives are lost. This immigration thing that's going on, casualties of war. America declares wars and then swears that they didn't. There is a war against immigrants. There is a war against the West Coast. The West Coast is riling people up. It's a win win situation. If the West Coast loses this war, great. More land, more space, less people. Because the West Coast doesn't care as much as they pretend to. They're just using the elderly, using these impressionable kids as little pawns in a war where they're not really trying to fight the federal government. They're just trying to get rid of people. They're really trying to weaken the resolve to fight. because you look at the news, you say, "Oh, that person got tear gassed," or "Oh, that person got beat by the police," or "That person just ran off." Fight correctly. That's what we need to do. If you're on the West Coast, you have to fight correctly. Recognize your rights. Recognize that you're still citizens, most of you. If you're an immigrant, I guess you're not a citizen illegally, but even then, you have rights. DC Cousins, welcome to the channel. Welcome, fans. Welcome to the revolution. I am talking about the war on the West Coast. Mm. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm exhausted. I talk about the upside down. I talk about how in this world we need to define our own ideals. You can't just say, I hold a sign and I'm making a difference. You have to make a difference. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for what you believe. You have to codify it. I wish that these people could be more honest. Like if they're looking for a party, I mean they picked a shitty way to go about it. If they truly believe in fair and legal immigration or harboring people who are refugees, then they have to be missionaries. It may not be a religious thing. It may just be your creed, your philosophy that the sanctity of human life is worth saving. If your only crime is that you move from one squiggly line to another, then we need to examine that law. We need to examine it because we are faced with so much danger, so much peril that sometimes we don't have the luxury of staying within the same squiggly lines. People in California have selective memory. Selective memory. The Rodney King beatings happened, and people said, well, yeah, but I mean, I still live there. The California wildfires happen, and people say, that's bad. That's bad. I still live there. Earthquakes happen, they say, yeah, of course I still live there. People don't want to move. People don't want to see natural disasters. That's the whole world. The whole world has to admit. This is why I'm trying my hardest to be a mutant ambassador. I'm trying to take this conversation to the United Nations because we don't have this luxury of saying your squiggly line that you drew on a map entitles you to say that that area is yours. And yes, I understand that Ukraine and Russia are debating this in a very violent way. But it goes back to that sanctity of human life thing. What is more important? The treasure of the nation is its people. The history, the traditions, the culture, the money, that fades. It fades over time. It loses value. People have value. The United Nations aren't doing enough to remind people that they have value. I talk about a space program and people don't get it. It's the only way. It's the only way is up. The only way is up, because being on Earth as we are is just not working out. Moving forward is hard. I get it, but it's also necessary. I know that women are super fucking upset at me because I talk about it all the time. I talk about the fact that they're rapists. I talk about the fact that they sexually abuse men, just like men are rapists and sexually abuse women. But the reason why that occurs is because we're not seeing each other. We're afraid to see each other. We're afraid to look at ourselves naked. We're afraid to admit that we need each other. So it comes out as aggression, aggression that I do not tolerate whatsoever. So I get it. I have spoken at length about how if it weren't for my military service, I would have had a great mediocre life of being best friend to a woman or dating a woman or marrying a woman, having kids, and just staying dialed into, I guess, the bullshit that everyone else does. But I have been abused repeatedly. So, no, we don't get to be friends. We don't get to make small talk. Don't come to me looking for safety or whatever, because I was in the military, and after all the abuse that the males at Lackland put me through, I didn't expect that much difference from the female master sergeant, but maybe, just maybe, I thought you would have honor. I thought the men, they go wild. They forget their place and who they're talking to. But a female master sergeant would understand there's some lines you just don't need to cross. Not in this modern day. But she crossed the line with me. And unfortunately, I don't forgive. So unless you are super fucking famous and Madonna level, I can't fucking talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. If we have business together, great. Then we will talk. I will be as cordial as my PTSD allows. And sometimes I cannot be. But that's how things are. Are there ways to change that? Yeah. I'm doing a space program. So if female scientists want to collaborate with me through text, then yeah, let's do that. If they want to collaborate with me from afar, they can do that. I'm not going to deny facts. Females are better at math and science. They just have the focus. I mean, I'm pretty focused, but I'm also pretty fucking femme. If I'm being honest, I enjoy having my beard. I enjoy being a wild, unkempt, savage man. But I think deeply. I feel deeply. It's a shame. They talk about there's not enough women in STEM. It's you have enough. Your problem is that you don't see STEM in everything else that is out there. It takes a lot of chemistry and mathematics to be someone who's a makeup artist or a makeup expert who does YouTube tutorials. We keep talking about colleges and high schools. A little harder to say that not everything is taught there. Not everything is knowledge that you can pluck from an Ivy League school. It's a really shitty thing to do, um, using every opportunity to trigger my PTSD. Even if you think that you're trying to help, you're not. Having a woman enter into the whole fucking situation that I'm in right now to give what I can only describe as a one liner. The line, of course, I'm referring to is, I don't know, is it safe? It's nowhere safe. Nowhere is safe. That is the problem. That is a huge fucking problem. You live in a country where nowhere is safe. You live in a country that you can't say, well, yeah, but there's that town and that town doesn't have any crime. Why don't we all move there? Why don't we all live like whatever that town is doing? but nobody wants to. We all gravitate to these cities, and these cities are messes, messes that we allow. We allow a city to be messy. We allow crime in our cities because it takes effort to clean up a city. It takes effort to make a city safe again. If a city was really against drugs, against crime, you wouldn't have crime. You wouldn't have drugs. There's a part of the city, whatever city it is, that says, no, we want that, either openly or behind closed doors, but we do want that. Since we're on the subject of that, I want to legalize LSD on the West Coast, but specifically in a shamanistic ritual, not recreationally, because I want people to be able to experience it in a way that expands the mind without endangering people. Because that's always a risk. It's a risk when you use alcohol, it's a risk when you use caffeine, it's a risk when you do anything. But if you saw it as a transcendental experience, you would respect it more. I don't know. Is it safe? No, it isn't. I wasn't going to say that to her. It would have been easier to just say no. No, it isn't safe. But that wouldn't help her either. That woman has to make up her mind. A lot of us have to make up our minds of what does safety mean? Because there is no such thing. Not unless you're willing to fight for it, not unless you're willing to speak up for it. You want safety, then you're going to have to contribute. You're going to have to be a boring person that goes to these town hall meetings, goes to your local senator or representative's office and say, I have to voice a concern, not just over the phone. You have to do a town hall. You have to go to your local high school and say, you know what, I have to bring up an issue. So I need to rent the gymnasium for a Monday night. You have to say that because we're dealing with a lot of things here. Do I specifically want to be the person that does that? No, it's not something about wanting to do it. It has to be done. When I mentioned that there is an outbreak of a disease in India, you should know that already. You should know and be preparing for that. You should be speaking to your local officials and say, "What are you doing?" Don't look at the fucking protocols. You have to put them into action. The idea of someone speaking up and saying, close the damn borders now, that should be a president or that should be a governor. But these people will wait until the last fucking moment, and that's too late. So here we are. I'm on YouTube. I'm on YouTube and I am in the upside down as opposed to living it up with the sweet life. But you have to live in reality. People who are living a sweet life, they're not seeing all of it. They're not getting all of it. So once again, I guess I'm taking an opportunity to speak to the powers of West Coast meddling to just maybe focus on someone else, maybe someone who's white. People with melanin are mostly immune to bullshit. Some can be seduced by it. Um, those with melanin usually smell it and just don't want to do it. So I have a busy week. I have to go to town hall and make my voice heard. So this is Ian Iliona. I am a mutant. I am a werewolf. It's a full moon. Oh, I hope to see you on the next podcast.